All right, so that wraps up this Absolute Basics micro course. In the course of a couple of hours, we were able to talk about a lot of topics related to ASP.NET MVC Core. We talked about the MVC or Model View Controller design pattern. We talked about how it's implemented in ASP.NET MVC Core as a framework with a series of APIs and tooling and scaffolding and things of that nature. We then looked at kind of the relationship all the way through a web request as it comes in and how it gets routed to the appropriate action result method inside of a controller, how there are methods in the controller base class that allow you to pair a action result method with a view file which contains the view logic to expose the model to the end user. We talked about the three types of things you'll see inside of a view. Do you remember what they are? You're going to see just straight up HTML. You're going to see Razor syntax, and then you're going to see HTML with those little tag helpers that start with the letters ASP dash that can be used for things like creating anchor tags with the right navigation based on the controller and the action result method that we've specified. We can also use them to generate form fields for an appropriate property of our model and so on. We talked about models. We showed how to use Entity Framework, Code First migrations, although that wasn't the point of it, and I've glossed by it very quickly, how to update a database that has existing migrations, how to create new migrations, how to create model classes with properties and then add them to your application DB context as DB sets so that they could be, when we create a migration, those can be an accompanying table and column set can be added to the database as well, and then we can use the Entity Framework from that point on to work with that entity model. We talked about adding data annotations to the model for various things, from controlling scaffolding to controlling the way that the model properties are rendered and displayed to the end user. We looked at how we can use it for validation purposes and how it even affects the creation of the table when we apply those migrations to our database. We talked about conventions and how certain naming conventions are utilized by the framework, and you need to know them. Everything from how controllers and action methods and views are named to how properties of models are named and what effect that has inside of the database when we go ahead and apply migrations, code first migrations to a database to support a given entity model. We looked at, what else did we look at? The configuration system. We talked about startup, dependency injection. We looked at a few tips and tricks, how to implement certain features. We used the scaffolding. I mean, we covered a broad swath of features, and if all of this made a little bit of sense to you, then the hardest conceptual part of this is over. From now on, we're just adding on little details to kind of flesh out your knowledge. So we've accomplished what we set out to do, which was to build a foundational skeleton upon which we will flesh out the details of ASP.NET MVC Core going forward in subsequent micro courses. Okay, so great job, and let's continue to learn more about ASP.NET MVC Core in upcoming micro courses. We'll see you in those courses. Thanks.